Hey guys, Derek here with Papaville low gauge trains, and this time around we got a restoration video for you. I got Commodore Vanderbilts that I'm doing. They're done, but let's show you how I did it. Alright guys, so as I said in the video, in the introduction to the video, it's a restoration video. I was talking about this in my last video, how I'm going to do these trains. I detailed the first part of it, it's pretty heavy duty, but the second part with the painting and everything, I kind of skipped over that because you guys have seen me paint stuff before. You've seen me sandblast before. I did a little bit of sandblasting. Sandblasting to me is so therapeutic. I don't know why. I really enjoy doing it. When it comes to having after I sandblast, then I use a 1000 or 2000 grit, depending on what I'm doing. I give it a good sand down afterwards. I hate doing that part, but I don't know why, but the sandblasting, I just love doing that. So this is the finished product here. I did 2 of them, and as I said in the previous video, I kind of call these sister trains, because what I did is the body color on this one is the accent on this one, and vice versa. But although on this one, it had the chrome front end, so I polished it up really nice. I'll show you. Let's give you a close up of this one because I'm really proud of this train. I'll be honest with you. So look at how nice this one come out. Look at that. These are brand new badges and completely rebuilt motor. So these trains, by the way, these particular trains will be available to you, my friends. I'm going to put these guys up for sale at the Great Midwest Train Show in DuPage County at the fairgrounds. I'll be honest with you, the gold, it's actually, technically this is called, it's a brass color. I didn't do as good a job on the paint as this one as I did on this one, but I'm going to put these guys up for sale, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much I want to charge for them. Maybe you guys can, you know, give me an idea of what might be a good price on these. I personally, as you'll see in this video, the engines, the motors, I mean, are completely rebuilt from the ground up. The only thing that I haven't done, because I just don't have them yet, they're going to have brand new brushes and brand new bulbs in them, light bulbs. I'm just simply waiting for those to come in. I ordered them and they haven't come in, but they will have brand new brushes and brand new bulbs. Now in this particular one, it has the round headlight, where this one has the visor on the front. The bracket is a little bit different that holds the light on this one. If you happen to come to the Wheaton show, you'll get to see the difference on the two, but I'll be honest with you, I really don't know how much to charge for these guys. I did the custom painting that I do on the tenders. These are originally the New York Central tenders. They have nice fresh wheels on them. I mean, these are basically in, I would say, almost new condition, other than the fact, like I said, I didn't do the greatest paint job on this one. I'm kind of ashamed of myself of how it came out, but the option is completely sandblast all the paint off and redo it again, or just turn it over as it is. I think I'm just going to turn it over as it is. So, all right, so let's get on. I'm going to whip through. You're going to see some time-lapse videos of me throwing this. Like I say, I didn't show really too much of the sandblasting, and I didn't really show, the only painting part that I showed was the painting of the tender of the coal section. What I always do, and I like doing this, is I give it a primer coat. This section up here, I'll tape off and leave this in the primer color, and then I paint the actual load, I guess you could call it. And then to give it a tiny bit of texture, I have and I explained this in the video, I have a very coarse sandpaper, and I just tap it with that, and it gives it a little bit more of a I don't know, I just like the way it comes out that way. So all right, so I'm blabbing now, and So we'll go into the quick time lapse of my restoration on these guys, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a second. One of the hardest parts about taking these engines apart, this is actually the one that was given to me. One of the hardest parts is these tabs right here, to get them out, because they are much heavier gauge of steel than these ones. And it's, like I say, it's really tough to get these out. And it's also really tough to put them back in. So, you know, I struggle a lot with them. What I found is I actually use a small chisel to get underneath there and tap it and then bend it up. And then when I put them back in, I will cover it up with some fabric and take a screwdriver and just give it a light, because these are going to be straight out. I give it a very light tap, just to get it bending a little bit, and then once I have it covered up, and imagine there's brand new paint on here. So once that just bent over just a tiny bit, then I give it a couple of whacks with the hammer to bend it the rest of the way down. Now, if it does chip up a little bit, I'll just touch it up real quick with a little bit of whatever color I painted it. All right, back to the time lapse. Okay, so we're going to take apart the first Commodore Vanderbilt motor here. Sometimes, and this is a good way to know if you've got one that's never been redone or anything, these little tabs right here are perfectly straight and you can just slide this off. In this case, they're not, because they twist them a little bit at the factory. I kind of pre-twisted earlier before I started the video. So that's part number one that's out. You can go about doing this a couple of different ways on the way you want to start. I found that popping the wheels off first is usually the easiest, because you can't get the armature in there out without the wheels being taken off. So an easy way to do the wheels, take a flathead screwdriver, kind of get it in there and just work it a little bit on each side. Now what might end up happening, this one might come off, or it might slide out through the bottom. And it seems like on this one it's sliding out. No, we're going to take the top side off, or maybe both. Okay, so the axle came out of this side. So we got that one out. Let's do the other side. Well, this coming off really easy. Sometimes they're pretty tough to get off. Look at all the gook and stuff that's in there. Can you see all that? I mean, it's like a rat's nest. That'll all get cleaned up. Now on this one, the wheel bearing or axle bearing did come off with it, which is fine because it's going to come out anyway. So the axle bearing that came out was this one. Let me get parts falling off here. I want to do this in order. So that axle bearing came out. We're going to take this one out. Look at all the nasty stuff on that axle bearing. And then we'll pop that gear off. We'll take that extra little bearing that's on the top of the gear. This actually sits like that. I like to keep that together. We'll slide this bearing out. Oh, come on now, out you go. And we'll slide that last bearing out. Got a feeling this sucker has never been apart. All right, so next thing we're going to do is going to pull that armature off. I happen to know this size. This is actually a, what size is this one? Well, it's a 6 mil. I don't know what that converts over to. And what's nice is usually they're not on so tight that you can't get them off. There's number 2. And then we will, oh, one of the things I forgot to do. I usually do this right away as the first thing, is I take the brushes out. You just lift up that spring, slide it over to the side. Lift up that spring, slide it over to the side. And usually you can just slide that out. There we go. There's one. And there's the other one. Keep this stuff all kind of organized here. Okay, so next we will take the screw out on the other side here. So when you're done with this, oh, there's the other one I was looking for. There's my 4 wheel bearings, or axle bearings. And then that guy will just lift it up, slide it to the side. There's our armature, dirty as can be. So these 2 guys right here, once we pull those out, we can lift this whole side off. Because I've had some where when you take all this apart, you got a lot of rust on the inside, and I'll point out where. So sometimes if it doesn't run on the armature right here, it'll be real rusty. And then once you get this guy off, this plate off, on the inside of the armature, it'll be real rusty. You can use a Dremel to clean that. There's a lot of different ways. And then everything will just kind of pop out at this point. So you have these 2 pickups. Now this is a pre-war where these pickups are separate. So I'll just kind of bend that out. And there's the pickup on that side. And the pickup on that side. Because I'll take these pickups and clean them up really nice. I'll clean all this up really nice. We'll spray this all down with cleaner. This particular piece, that clip right there, that's for your headlight. This is the reversing unit. And so we'll just clean the hell out of this thing really nice. Look at all the grease that's on this. That'll be nice and shiny when we're all done. So that's how simple it is to take one of these guys apart. All right, so real quick, when I took this apart, this little piece right here, I can get it back out. This one fell out. Didn't fall out of the other one. So it's just a little, it goes into part of the E unit that goes up and down. And that when it goes up and down, it will move the E unit back and forth. So that piece just goes in right in there. If yours happens to pop out, you just slide it back in there. So we're going to clean these guys up really nice before we put them all back together. And then we'll move on to more stuff for the restoration. But like I say, I'm doing two at once. So now let's take in fast motion, I'll take the other one apart. All right, my favorite part, sandblasting. So I'm not going to show you all the videos of all the pieces that I've sandblasted, but you know, as you've seen before, sandblasting works so well. If you have the access to a sandblast booth, I happen to have a small one, and it works so well to really clean that stuff up. But it takes a while sometimes, especially I have a small compressor, so I have to stop about every 5 minutes or so to let it build up pressure and to refill my gun with media. The better sandblast booths are a continual setup. In the future, maybe I'll get that, but I love sandblasting. It's just, to me, it's very therapeutic. So, as you can see. All right, so I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. This is the part I hate the most. After you sandblast, it's the best idea to do a little wet sanding. Sandblasting can sometimes give a tiny bit of a rush. So I'm using a 1000 grit wet dry paper. And you just got to go through and just sand it all down. I mean, it takes a little while. It's a pain in the butt to do, but if you want a good paint finish when you're done, you got to do it. And man, I really do hate doing this. Because to do all the pieces, it probably took for both trains about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's speed things up a little bit. How about it? Okay, so I'm getting ready to paint the tender loads. I've already primed it. This section here is taped off because I like to leave that in the gray primer. You'll see that when it's all done. And there's a little trick that I do. Is when I spray, I'm actually using a matte black, even though it goes on shiny. It isn't going to have kind of a dull finish to it. The little thing that I do is I have some very coarse sandpaper. This is like a 60 or something. And while the paint's still wet, I'll just lightly tap it on there. And it gives it a little bit of that look that there's an actual load of coal in there, where it kind of gives it a rough finish. Let's see if you can get down there. Oops, sorry. You can notice, well, it hasn't really set in yet. We might have to wait just a little bit until that becomes a little more tacky. Let's put I'm doing this outside, and it is currently about, I don't know, might be 50 degrees, somewhere around there. So I'm gonna get this coating on there, but then I'm gonna right away take these inside and where they can dry, you know, a little bit warmer environment. I don't know if you can hear it off in the background. The neighbors are having a party way over there. I might even take a walk over there. They're good friends of ours. Maybe we'll go see. Have a couple of drinks with them, because it's getting late, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to turn around real quick. It's probably a little bit more below 50. So, all right, let's get this stuff shut down and bring it inside so they can dry properly. And I will be, like I say, using that nice coarse sandpaper. You'll see how coarse that stuff is. And I'll just tap it on that paint before it dries to give it a little bit of a rough finish look to it. Okay, so it's time to put this motor back together. Let's go through our parts real quick. I mean, as you can tell, these are our wheels. This is our light assembly. I'm going to talk about this in a second. These are the bearings for the axles. This is the gear. This is the bearing for the gear. These 4 bolts will hold the brush plate and the main plate in. We got the armature. We have, because this is a post-war, so these are the pickups that go onto here. And I didn't take, you know, if you can avoid taking all this part apart, that's a good idea. Sprayed everything down really nice with some CRC electronics cleaner, and cleaned up some of the other stuff, cleaned up the armature really nice. So it's time to put it back together. So step 1 will be, I'm gonna put that, we talked about this piece earlier. Sometimes this will pop out. It just goes, there's a little hole. This is part of the E unit. And it just slides right in there. Okay, so you got these 2 little tabs right here that are gonna go in here. And we are gonna bring this around this way. So they go in right there as those pop through. We'll flip this over. These tabs here, there's 4 tabs. The bottom 2 will go into this side. And you gotta put these guys in first. And then we take our top plate. And this part takes a little bit of finesse of moving it around to get it to lock in just right, and to get these plates to get everything to just line up just right. Takes a little bit of sliding around, and then once you got it in, go on now. There we go. So once you got it in, you're going to take 2 of your small bolts that go into the 2 bottom pins. Just get my light turned down. Whoop. That one fell through. and tighten them down. I have just a socket that I use when I finger tighten them. You don't want to over tighten them. You really don't want to be wrenching down on them. All right, so that's basically, we got that main part together, as you can see. So the next thing we're gonna do is, I always kind of clean it up just a little bit extra. So we got to put the armature in. So there is a little bearing right here that has a lip in it. That lip has to slide through this hole, but hopefully this is focusing in. Right here, there's a little bit of a nub or whatever you want to call it. That nub has to line up with this gap right here. Hopefully you guys can see this. So when you put it through, because if it doesn't line up, then that gear doesn't go all the way through. I got lucky and got it on the first try. So next we'll put the armature plate on the top. And then our next two of those 4 nuts that we had will go on there. And then finally we have the screw that goes on the bottom. And where did oh, there it is. And I always try not to over tighten this stuff, because when you want to take it apart to give it a good thorough cleaning, I mean, that's what you got to do. So we could put our brushes in now if you wanted to. Doesn't really make a difference on when you put them in at this point, once that plate's in there. So we'll go ahead and put them in. I will be replacing these brushes. As you can see, these are kind of short. They're worn down a little bit. I do have some that I'm waiting for them to come in. Just line that slot up. With the brushes on one side, they have a slot that pin goes up. An easy way to put that pin back in, you just lift it up and pop it over. I use a good old standard safety pin here. And as you can see, hopefully this side is smooth. Whoops. And this side has the slot in it. That little pin off the spring fits in that slot. So when you put it in there, you give it a little bit of turn to line it up just right. And then just lift that pin up, or lift that spring up, slide it over, and bingo. So it's in there. Hopefully the focus is working properly. And so there we go. So the next step is putting our wheels and gears on. So we're going to the other side now. So the first thing we're doing, one of the things that I will do, I use this is actually 30 weight engine oil. I just simply call it heavy oil. And I'll just put a little bit of a drop in there on the inside. And then we'll slide that into the gear. This goes in on the gear. One side has got a raised edge on it, the other, you put it in, so it comes through that way. Here again, this has the little notch, and there is a notch inside the hole here. Oops, we got this backwards, don't I? No, we got it right. And it goes on there like so.
All right, so I'm having a massive brain fart here, and I'll explain it later, but I had the wrong bearing on that gear, so of course it's not going to fit on. Sucks getting old sometimes, doesn't it?
Okay, so I took a little pause because I didn't realize the bearing that I threw in the inside of here was the wrong one. I actually threw one of the axle little bearings there in here and not this one. This one doesn't have the little ridge on it, so that was my mistake. And that just pops in a little bit. You want to put this one in first because you won't be able to get your wheels in. So an easy way to remember when you're putting this all together, your E unit is towards the front, these two tabs, when you put your, because if your drive wheel that the push rod goes to goes on the back side. So you see that little tab right there? There's an easy way to think about it. So that's going towards that tab. So we will slide one of these bearings in, and this here again, we have the little tab right there. So when you put it in, you line it up just right. I will put just a light drop of oil on there. I'll slide it through. I'll flip this over. And then we'll put the next one on there. Turn it till that tab slides in. So now this one, oops. And then the second, so obviously the wheel that has the gear on it goes on this side. I didn't mention that. So then we put this one on here. And then just give it a bit of a push. Now, I got lucky on this one, and it just slid on. Sometimes what I'll do, and then what I will also do, is I'll put this in my bench vise and just give it that extra little squeeze. So let me go do that real quick. Another thing that you want to do is make sure that you have these guys lined up. So that one I've got it at 9 o'clock, and they are just about right. Okay, I'm going to put this on my, this is off camera, but what I'm doing is I just have it in my bench vise and just giving a nice little extra turn to seat them in there nice and good. So that's in there. And they're lined up. That's the important part, to make sure that they're lined up. All right, so now we have our front wheels going in. Here again, we take that little, see the notch in there. It's also good, you know, if you don't like give this massive clean, just stick a toothpick in there and clean the excess out. And throw that. Throw that in there. Slide it. Whoops. Dummy me. Okay. You know, pay attention to what you're doing here, guys. So, I don't know if any of you guys caught that, but I was putting the wrong one in. Got to put the gear side over here. So this one, when they came out, the axle stayed on this piece. So we're going to bring it in through the other side. Turn that to where, and like I said, that bearing will only go in one way. And there it came through. And then we will pop that on there. Make sure that we got it lined up. So as you can see, it's got that little bit to go in. So I'm going to put this on the bench vise. Give it a couple turns. And there we go.
it's in nice and tight. Now sometimes what will happen is when you get in there, these gears will be a little bit too tight. It's because you pushed it in, it's been pushed in a little bit too far. So real simple solution to that is just take your screwdriver and just kind of bend it out a little bit. So I like the way that's turning. So the last thing we got to do is, actually there's 2 steps, but the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put these pickups on. And these pickups are really super easy to put on these post wars. There's a little catch on this side, and the opening hole, you would just put it in right there. And where are my, oh, they're over here. I'm just going to kind of bend that down a little bit over that tab right there. That one's in. And we'll put the next one in. And you want these to be up because they have to apply pressure on the other side. Okay, so now the reason that those underside ones stick up is on the post war, it's one solid piece with a post in the middle that has a little spring underneath. These don't. So you have this copper piece that comes up, puts contact on that, and that's how you get that little bit of extra push right there. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put the front piece on. A lot of guys don't do this way. Now, if you notice real quickly, that's bent in a little bit. I'm going to bend that back out. Yep, there we go. Different guys do this different ways. Some people just put them on. I like to put these on so that they are, one is when it's upside down, the high side points down and the hollow side points out. So these go on, and these 2 tabs will go into the insides. So if you do this, well, we're going to push this out a little bit. The way they originally came, which a lot of people don't do this because they want to be able to take this piece off. Oops. It's a little frustrating sometimes to get these. You got 4 pins that all have to line up just right. You have your push rods, and sometimes it helps if you run those push rods forward, which I didn't do originally. Run them forward so they're in good, and then you slide your other 2 . There we go. Okay, so now where these pins come out, the way these originally came, these would be twisted a little bit. And so what I will do, unless I'm planning on, I know I'm going to be going back, but like this one, I did a really nice job of cleaning this whole motor up. So I will take those each and just give them a little bit of a turn, and this way this plate doesn't come off. And there we go. I don't like the noise it's making, but that'll loosen up once we get some lubricant, get some grease on these wheels. And the next thing I'm going to do real quickly, let's turn this on, bring this over, and now that it's put back together, let's see if it works. So when you put your power on, you can put it on one of your pickups. But as far as your ground, you just put it on the frame. It usually works just fine. And come on, cord, get over here a little bit. Let's see.
Okay, so I ran into a problem with this particular one. The E unit wasn't properly working. As you can hear, it's just buzzing. So I took it all apart, and we got her working really nice.
Unit, and let's. Okay. Once I pulled it apart, the little the E unit wasn't properly hooked up. I pulled it apart and got it hooked back together again, and now she's working like a charm. So the next step is going to be painting. And then real quickly, a little on a side note, so this is the light bracket. I ended up putting a new wire in here, painted these. But when you do paint, one of the things to remember is I put a little tape on this side. This side will hook to the, I gotta find it here. This will screw into the inside here, like so. But you don't want to have paint on here or here, because then it's not going to ground and your light's not going to work. So you got to remember, leave some metal exposed so these guys can go together just fine, and then you'll get a good connection on those. Next step, like I say, is going to be paint.
Okay, so I chose not to show you all the boring videos of me painting these, but here's the finished product. It came out really nice, a little bit better than expected, although I could have done a better job on the, it looks gold, but it's actually brass engine. Brass was the paint color.
All right, so there you have it. That's the video for this week. Hope you guys come and see me at the, or those of you that are in the area. I mean, if you're not, obviously if you're watching this far away from Chicago, there's a good chance you're not going to come to the Wheaton train show. For those of you that do come, or if you happen to be like vacationing in the Chicago area, it's the first Sunday of every month. You can go to trainshow.com to get the dates. They also do some East Coast shows, Greenberg. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is because I'm not from the East Coast and I don't go to that show, but I do know this one. Yeah, if you're going to be in the area, like I say, I'm going to do this. It's November 3rd. Show runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you go online at trainshows.com, it's normally $8 to get in. You can prepay your ticket and save $1. Ooh, a whole $1. But you know what? $1 is better than you think. I mean, I once bought a Marx 490 that was running for $1. So that $1 that I saved, I spent on that Marx, and I got myself a running train out of the deal. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, if you haven't already, hit that like button. Please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribe, and share the videos with your friends. What do I say up here? Like, subscribe, share. Papaville, O-Gauge Trains. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. A choo-choo!
Thank you for watching my Papa's videos.